Welcome to the Frictionless Innkeeper Podcast. Coming right up, fresh tips and insights from lodging professionals aimed at helping you improve your business. Our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest app, the digital concierge that helps your guests to live like locals. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com. Steve Short, how are you?
I'm doing well, Matt, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I think this might be one of our first. I feel like I keep saying that for all of our podcasts because it's getting old, but we keep talking to people or discussing topics that we haven't really discussed before. And this is one I know that's very near and dear to all of our hearts. This is with Jan Smith, who's the owner of the Maple Cove Bed and Breakfast in August House in Michigan. And she's really talking with us today about her use of the Frictionless Guest app.
Predominantly, yeah. It is kind of weird. You'd think after doing 70 of these things, these podcasts, that we wouldn't hit on anything new. But yeah, this is the first time we've actually talked to someone who's used the app, predominantly about their use of the app. You know, she talks about how she and her husband, Mark, got started and about the property and some of the cool things that they've done there. But the focus is on the guest experience and how beyond, what they've done with the property, how that is enhanced, I guess, by using the app. And it's great to hear. I mean, this kind of validates what we've been doing for a long time. It's great to hear when you're not having to prompt or coerce somebody into saying, hey, and they say, wow, we really love using the app and it's really helped us. It's, saved time. It's helped our guests. And there's nothing better than to hear that. It's really cool to hear. And, the hope is that some of what Jan talks about, that other innkeepers, if they don't know about the app, then maybe this will help educate them a little bit. And if they already use the app, then maybe there's some things in there that might be helpful to them that they might not be thinking about using it or how they might use it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And, one thing that stuck out to me, and I know it did to you, Jan talked about how using the Frictionless Guest app has really gotten her more connected to other businesses, restaurants, whatever it may be, attractions in her area. And I know that was part of your vision when really starting the Frictionless Guest app.
Yeah. The whole idea of community and the fact that the bed and breakfasts can't, and inns and just, cool boutique properties can't really exist. Most of them can't exist without cool places to go to around them. I mean, typically, this is why you find them the properties are typically unique and the places are typically unique and, tend to be the historic areas are just really cool places to go to beauty wise or whatever. But the local businesses that support those communities, those locales, they need people to come from the outside typically. So for the innkeepers, without a destination, a place to go to, a town to go to, and places to go to, place to eat, shop, play, as we always say. I mean, without that, it's just not happening. It's the guest, it's the innkeepers, and it's the local businesses. And those three things, it's a three-legged stool, right? And it can't stand if any of those aren't supporting each other, really, I think. So
Yeah, totally. And with that, we hope you enjoy this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Jan Smith, who's the owner at the Maple Cove Bed and Breakfast and the August House. Okay, Jan and Steve, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you too, Jan. Steve Short, my friend, how are you?
Matt Langen, my friend, I'm doing
Good.
well. Thanks for being here, Jan. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate this, Jan. And I know we were talking before we hit the record button. I think this is one of our first podcasts where we talk about a frictionless guest app and user, which is really exciting. This will be a fun conversation today. And before we get into that, Jan, if you don't mind, tell us about your inn, its history, how you became an innkeeper, and all that good stuff.
Well, we have a great story. Mark and I bought this old, dilapidated Greek revival home in the 90s. And it took us 2 years to get it ready just for us to move in. And when we had toured it, we knew right away it would be a perfect bed and breakfast. And both Mark and I enjoy the hospitality field. Mark is a pet food distribution company, and I have done many jobs throughout the years, and I just knew the house was going to work. So raised our children and talked to the township in 2012, finally got the inn approved to be a bed and breakfast in the area, first one in our area, at least Addison Township, and had our first guests in 2016 in February. So we're coming into our 9th year. So we're very loving it. We have 3 suites in the main house. It's 3,600 square feet in the main house for guests. And then we also have the August house, which is the old caretaker place on the property, because this was the Fruhofs, which was the inventor of the tractor trailer company. This was their summer home. And so they were only there a short time. And one of our best stories is that in 1950, they decided to put a built-in pool in for Sing Along with Mitch to come out and do a pool party. So when they were done with it 10 years later, they filled it in with sand, and then we dug it out in the 90s, and it's a beautiful pool to this day. So that has worked well. And it has been, of all the careers I've ever done, which have been many, this is by all time my favorite. I just love it. I'm not tired yet. I'm ready to keep going until I can't do it anymore.
Wow. That's pretty cool. You're telling me that beautiful pool back behind your property, right? It's pretty close. I mean, you must have had to redo it though, right? But
we did.
Right?
Yes, we did. It took 10 hours, a backhoe, and we dug it out, and then we completely refurbished everything. But the shape is still the same, and the outside cement was still the same. So it's perfect. And actually, the sand preserved it for us too. So there was nothing that we had to do with the actual structure of the pool.
And you're saying that Mitch Miller, Sing Along with Mitch, was Mitch Miller, right? So that was actually Mitch Miller came there to do.
Yes.
Was it a TV program?
No, he knew the Fruhofs, and he came for a pool party, and he did his little sing along. He was the music entertainment for their pool party.
That's cool. We're going to have to do it.
He hasn't come, or anybody.
And I know the name Fruhoff from, that was Tractor. Is that right? Or Tractor Trail?
Tractor Trailer. Mm-hmm.
Tractor Trailer. They're still on the road, right?
Yes.
Okay. Neat. Your place looks pretty big, but you just have the 3 suites and then this August house. Is that right?
Yes.
So I guess you all must be in a portion of the house that's.
We're in about 1,600 square feet in the back half of the house. And when Mark and I decided to do the B&B, we just really were targeting people to be able to connect with each other again. We decided to be adults only, and we wanted them to have a lot of space. So each of our suites is a master, a private sitting room, and then the private bathrooms. That's why there's only 3 in the main house, and 2 on the upstairs, each on the north and south wing, and then the main floor suite. And then the August house is about 1,100 square feet. And although we always said it was for people who wanted a little bit longer stay, we get weekenders coming all the time because they love the privacy and of having the whole house. And if they don't want to go out for dinner, they can cook if they'd like to. And we have a lot of companies out do carry out to the house as well. So,
and talk about, I guess you said, is it Edison Township?
Addison. Mm-hmm.
Addison. Okay. Talk about your Michigan, right? And kind of the area where you're located.
So we are located in Addison Township, and we are 20 minutes from Rochester, which is thriving, beautiful shopping, lots of dining, 10 minutes from Oxford, 15 from Lake Orion. So where we are, you could go anywhere and find within from 10 to 25 minutes and find anything you wanted. Blake's Orchard is close to us, which is a very renowned orchard they do their own brewery, and they do all the hard ciders. And Rochester, really good restaurants. So we love it because you don't have to go anywhere if you don't want to. There's a couple little restaurants right down the street you could even walk to that are pretty good. But if you want good dining, then really good dining, we send people. But we have 14 acres. And so we have a little walking trail. It's short, so we tell people lap it, if you really want to get your exercise. We did a greenhouse this year because our goal is to always add something to the property that is going to add interest to our guests and give them more of an experience on property. They just started our barn today, so we're going to do a barn, and my goal is to do miniature donkeys and horses and all kinds of fun fainting goats and anything that, people from the city aren't going to have a chance to have met before, and they can meet here. So, and then there's lakes. There's lakes where you could rent kayaks. You can bring your boat, and just across the street from us is the public access to Lakeville Lake. So our property just is a nice spot right in the middle, all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay. So that property, I mean, some places might, and you are select registry property. It's a very nice property, and it's obviously you're either 4.99 or 5.0 in terms of your ratings on whatever, right? So, which is another reason as far as being select registry, because of their commitment to quality all around. But some properties are more like the property might be the destination. In your case, it sounds like it's certainly, if that's what they want to do, they can just hang out and be happy. There's enough, and it's enough, and and nice enough. But typically, you've got probably most of your guests are going off property to do other things quite a bit.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes. And we are very close to many wedding venues. So we have a lot of brides and their parties preparing at the house, or their family members coming. So our targeted group is very diverse, but we are the younger families getting away from, home and just reconnecting, brides or travelers coming in for family events. We have a lot of people say, hey, I love my family, but we don't have enough room. I'm going to send them to you. And we're always like, perfect. So we do have the people that never leave, that just come and, they get in their suites. We have little fridgies in there and coffee makers. So you don't have to, except for maybe coming up for food. And then we have people that this is their main spot that they're going to stay, and then they're just going to travel from there. Meadowbrook Hall's not far. And I don't know if you're familiar with that. With the old Dodge Estate. They do shows and music and tours. It's just beautiful. And Pine Knob's about 40 minutes away, and that's a great music venue. So we have both. I mean, I can't classify that, yes, more stay or more go, but it worked out perfectly that way.
Okay. So talk about how long have you been using the Frictionless Guest app, and talk a little bit about, getting it started and how you've decided to kind of use it.
Well, I actually heard about it from Deb at the historic Webster House when I had gone with my girls to visit her, and she told me about it. And then the next year, so I think we'd started in 2019. And then I saw you at a conference and talked to you and signed up. And Diane then was able to walk me through it. And it has been an awesome, positive experience for Mark and I. We love it. A little bit of time to put into it at the very beginning, but it actually is good because it encouraged Mark and I to really do some great research on restaurants in our areas and what is there to do. And it forced us to really become way more involved in the community. I think that's when I joined the Chamber of Commerce at the same time, knowing that I would get to know other business owners. And I use it everywhere. It's all over the house. It's, little QR codes, this is how you sign up for it. You can use your phone, you can use your computer. And I tell people all the time, and when they call me and I said, oh, at the bottom of your confirmation is this wonderful app. Get on there and you can see all the places that it is. And I have not one day been disappointed in its functionality for Mark and I. It's been great. Saves me a ton of time with having to explain where things are or what's on the menu, because I don't know, everybody's menu changes all the time. And it actually helps me keep up with who's open, who's closed, what their days are, because it changed after COVID. A lot of restaurants now are not open on Sunday and Mondays, and some are. So it keeps me really focused on what's happening in our community. And our guests really do seem to love it too. It's easy for them. Plus, it gives them direction. And with the phones the way they are today, it's right there for them how to get someplace. Much better than me giving them directions, because I don't care how long I've lived there. I still do not give great directions. It's just who I am. I have no sense of direction. So that saved me too.
What were you using prior to the app to try to communicate your recommendations to your guests?
Me. I would do a little piece of paper, or I type something out and says, here are our favorite restaurants in the area, and here's their address. And it was so time consuming because, I would just have to update everything all the times. Then I use the app for quite a few things. It's not just restaurants or golf courses or things to do around the area, but my house, I hate saying rules, but our suggestions are on there, and food we have for breakfast, pictures of food. So it's actually all about our property as well as Mark and I, and then our communities. So we've really rounded out how we used it. When I first started, it was really just restaurants and places to go. And now it is everything there is to know about Maple Cove is on there. And that's been a great help as well, because I don't know that everybody's reading what's in my big book. Here's my suggestions. I think they are much better about going online and looking at it through the computer or their phone than they are through hard copy.
Hard copy, yeah. So things like Wi-Fi passwords and all those things that I guess either guests can't find you, or these are all the same questions, right? I guess you probably used to get a lot of, maybe you still do, but you just say go to the app, with certain questions, right?
Yes. And even like our TV tutorials, because we stopped using cable or satellite, and now we do everything as live streaming. And that gives them an idea of how to work that, because not everybody, especially like the older generation, sometimes don't understand how to find what they're looking for. And that is a 1, 2, 3. This is what you do. Because if I'm off site, trying to explain it over the phone is very difficult. And this way it gives them an idea of what they can do. And they like that too.
Right. In terms of the places, the things to do, and the recommendations for things to do around town, I noticed that on your website, you've got some of those places. And talk about, I think there are some innkeepers that seem to think, well, I put it on the website, so therefore they'll know what I recommend. I don't really have a good answer I could come up with some answers, but I'd rather, hear it from an innkeeper as to why that just isn't enough.
Oh, because I think, first of all, when you think about food or restaurants, everybody's got a different flavor. And so giving them choices and directing them to an app where they can sit down and just look at multiple suggestions is a good idea. It's not just about what Mark and I like. This is about, these are 5-star restaurants, or, look at some of these reviews are perfect. They don't want to travel far. It really puts everything in perspective and helps them plan their trip. Because even though I think I know what someone would enjoy, I could be wrong. I would rather them choose, I want to go to this boutique, store, and then hit this restaurant afterwards. And so for me, giving our guests the opportunity to really do their own research, but it's controlled and easy, gives them more power for their trip. And they like that. And then the ones that don't, I can just say, hey, these are great places to go. Look at this app. You can see the menu, you can get your directions. And then they feel, okay, that was easy. I can do that. So we try to keep it very diversified. And our favorites, I like too, because I've had a restaurant down the street that is good, but sometimes it's not. And so having that lower star level on that, it frees me up from saying, I don't know if you're going to have the greatest experience that you want, because sometimes it's fantastic. And they have a beautiful deck that overlooks the lake, and that's the draw to this restaurant. But sometimes the food and the service is just not there. And that allows me to say, yes, you could go there and you might have a great experience, but you may not either. So that one's kind of down there.
You're at your risk, right?
Yes, it's at your risk. That's right.
So you talked about, kind of getting more involved and I guess interacting with these businesses as kind of a result of, I guess, feeling like you needed to vet things for your guests, right? Before you suggest, like, okay, I've heard this is a good place, but you and Mark actually go to a lot of these places, is that right? And check them out. Yeah.
Yes. And what's nice is, see, Mark and I, our tastes are so different. We both feel like we're the best food experts. I watch every cooking show I can possibly watch in competition. And I am pretty picky. And Mark is more like everything is delicious and some things are just better. So it's a good combination when we go. And it really does. It helps us because Facebook, when people say, I'm going to like you on Facebook and you like me, and we'll get more followers together, which is true. But when I can tell them, well, I've done more than like you, I have put you on this app that my guests are seeing every time they open that app. And you will get more traffic because I know my people that are there have to choose someplace to go to eat, if, unless they brought a small snack or something. And so I feel I am driving more people through the app, for the Frictionless app, than I am through liking someone on our business Facebook page.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny you mentioned Mark, and it reminds me of one of the places, I think, in one of the shops that you recommend called Caveman and Pip. Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like, he's the caveman and you're the Pip in the food related. When you go out to dinner or whatever, he doesn't care. He'll eat anything and you're more refined. That's what that Caveman and Pip look pretty cool. Like another community sort of place at like 40 like artisans and and all of this.
And he is and Pip is his daughter. And that's why. Yes. Right. So, and she's in the store sometimes. His wife is a designer, and it's a beautiful store. And people love it because he's always there. He's very engaging. So it's an experience when they walk in too. It's not just about, what I can buy as whatever, a gift, but I've met the owner of this store too. Same thing with Victoria's restaurant in Oxford. She is a French trained chef, owner of the restaurant. And she is always there. And I always tell everybody, tell Vicky you came from Maple Cove, because we've known each other for years. And she may not do anything as far as a discount, but she treats them like royalty. And they say, I got to talk to the owner. And I'm like, I know, but because it's a small establishment as well. So she has to be there all the time. But it's just wonderful. It's our guests getting the community feel that I have all the time through doing the app and going out into the community and learning more about my own community. And that's what Frictionless helped me do. Help me get out of my own space and into more spaces. And it's been wonderful for both myself and the businesses Mark and I are connecting with.
Do you think, it's not the purpose of the app, but I wonder, with other innkeepers listening, whether you feel like it's helped your business as well. It definitely seems like, it's there to help the guest. It's kind of a tripod, I guess. It's you all, the innkeeper, it's the guest, and it's the local businesses. And I guess all three can't survive without each other, right?
Correct.
And so do you feel like, you're given to the guest, you're given to the local businesses. Do you feel like it comes back in any way, even if only indirect?
I do feel it comes back. First of all, it may not have been the function of the app because it's definitely a guest app for guest experience. And I love that about it. But the side benefits were great for myself and then other businesses, small businesses, whether they're, in the towns around us or even further out. And it has come back because I think we just get a lot of repeat visits because people have gone on the app and they're like, I want to try this other restaurant next time I'm there. So our repeat guest experience is very high and we love it. And I do feel that the app has helped that because it gives them more because why come all the way over and not stay with us? They've already stayed with us. They know the experience they're going to get, and they're going to get a 5-star experience. So they're going to come again, and then they're going to look and see what they haven't tried. And then they're going to go try that next restaurant. So I believe it has helped us with our return and our repeat guests.
You mentioned that, I guess you're one of the ways, you get the word out about the app, obviously there on property with QR codes and trying to know about it in any way so that they can link to it. But you also mentioned in, I guess, the confirmation email, maybe a pre-arrival as well, where you're saying, hey, here's where you can go find out about the recommendations. Have you heard that guests say, hey, thanks for the app. We were able to plan things ahead of time. Does it seem like some guests are planners and others aren't probably, and they're not going to do it until they've decompressed and they're on site and they're like, okay, now we can start thinking about what we're going to do.
Right.
But others plan. So is it you're feeling that guests definitely are using the app to do some planning ahead of time and it helps them, once they're there?
Yes. I would say it's probably 50-50. For the planners, they've got it in the confirmation email. They've gotten it in the text I sent them out. I do an email personally to everybody with the app. And then when they get there, if they haven't had a chance to plan, because sometimes they want to see, I want to just see what it's like, relax for a while. And then all of a sudden, like, hey, where should we go for dinner? Or what do you want to do? Then there it is again in their suite, in their welcome letter, that if they haven't already opened it, they have another opportunity to open. So that's the other thing I feel like for an innkeeper, my job is to keep making sure that they have every available option to look at this app and figure out what they want to do. And yes, I can direct them, but I always tell them, sure, I'm happy to give you a recommendation, but you're going to see so much more. And I even have shown people how to do it and how easy it is. And once they get on, they're just like, oh, this is great. So yes, so about 50-50, and a lot of if they're younger and they've left their children with their parents or grandparents or whatever, they're just coming to relax. But the app has allowed me to show where they can get carry out from as well. So that helps. Because then I'm not saying, well, there's 3 places and here's their number. This way they can go on, look, and then get their menu as well.
What about usage in terms of age? Does there seem to be any difference? Like it seems like it's calmed down a little bit, but the whole millennial thing, millennials coming to bed and breakfast more, because they're more experience bound or based or whatever. Traditionally you've got people that tend to be in their 50s plus. Do you notice any pushback or any more acceptance based upon age, or have we reached the point where using an app on a phone is not a big deal regardless of age, or what do you see?
I am seeing that more of my senior or older guests are great with their phones. Most of the people that come are, because I don't know, my parents are deceased, but when they were alive, I would always be like, carry your phone because it has everything you need on it. And I think our generation has taught that generation how to be phone savvy. So I do see that. But, I have had a couple people that are they're not going to use it. They're afraid if I download it and I have to give them my email, and then I'm going to get junk mail. And I always explain that it's only they forget you once you're gone. So you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Understandable. How about getting it up and running? Like you said, a little bit of work or whatever. And I guess you have to do some upkeep here and there if you want to recommend a new place or decide that maybe there's a place that just hasn't been cutting it enough. But what was it like getting the app up and running? Were there any challenges, or was it just really just a matter of just spending a little time and getting the information out there?
Yeah, it was easy to use. I did have Diane help me the first time. And honestly, I underutilized it for a few years before I really, realized I am not using this app. And I think it was just at one of the conferences that you talked to us about it. And I thought I could be doing so much more. And Diane has been very good about reaching out, on a regular basis saying, how you doing? Do you need any help? And now with her tutorials online too, that helps me a lot. So yes, when we first did it, I put in the basics, underutilized it, and then talked to Diane about, I couldn't figure out how to redo it. It had been a couple of years and I needed to go in and update it. And once I really sat down and focused, I was able to do everything myself. It's super easy. And yes, it does take a little bit of time, but so does typing everything out on a document, on a Word document for people. Even if you save it, you're constantly changing it. And honestly, I notice most of the time when I leave a document in a suite, I can tell it's not even been picked up, So this is better. They can go on. They don't have to worry about, and I'm not using as much paper. I'm trying to be more green. So after the initial time, which wasn't intense, it's smooth. It's been smooth for me.
Yeah. And I guess the good thing is that even if you don't have as much time to devote to, like you say, using it the way you wanted to, or once you kind of got comfortable, you're like, well, maybe I should be looking into other ways of using this. At least it's still having some recommendations out there. Something's better than nothing. You can kind of, I guess, crawl before you walk and walk before you run. And it sounds like you're off and running at this point, basically.
Right. And honestly, the learning curve for the app is quite easy. So that wasn't it. It was just, for me personally, I am the innkeeper. I'm not the cleaner anymore, but I did everything at first. So, my time was very limited. And once I just thought, just take a little time out and, devote it to this app and to a blog on a newsletter, anything you're doing anyways for social media, think of that in the same light and keep this updated. And it's been perfect. And it's a nice cup of coffee while I'm working. It's easy.
Yeah, I think I see it too. And I remember talking with a previous innkeeper who I originally met at one of the conferences. And she was talking about that when she had an inn, it was near Killington, in Vermont. And that it's that old saying of working in the business versus working on the business, that once she got out in the community and started making connections in order to set up relationships and recommendations for where her guests could go. So rather than just constantly being at the inn, at the B&B and just, cleaning rooms or whatever, right? That first off, it's a better life to go out and do those things. You make these great connections and suddenly the world kind of opens up and it's just easier. And now everybody benefits basically, but you got to kind of get out and do it. And,
right.
It's a while to maybe get to that point for some people, especially if you're just kind of getting up and running. And
yes,
so
it's a perfect starting point too. I mean, you can make it as detailed as you feel necessary too. I always look at it and think I can probably do more. I think I could add more to it, maybe about the property or how to walk the trail or whatever. And once the animals come and the barn is done, that'll be a whole new tile of funness for people. So I'm looking forward to that. But when I started, I took baby steps, and now it's a different story. But we're how many years in now? 7 probably with Frictionless, 5 or 6 with Frictionless, and I just keep growing every day with it, and I love it.
Fantastic. We definitely appreciate it. We appreciate being able to talk with you about it as well, and you letting others know about it. Are you going to be at the Michigan conference this year?
I sure am. Yes, I am the vice president of the board. I have to be there. But I want to be too.
That's good. I will be there again. This will be
yes, I know.
So, yeah, that's good. Looking forward to it. It's a great group. They have a lot of fun. You can tell it's genuine. My wife and I were up with our boys at Christmas time. We weren't able to stay at a bed and breakfast, but we were up in Dearborn. So,
okay.
been to Michigan in the last year. So we've contributed to the Michigan economy.
That is wonderful.
So it's fun to go. Okay, Matt, you've been totally quiet, Matt. I don't feel like you're earning it.
You know why, Steve? Because this is like your dream podcast. You get to hear it directly from a happy user. This is your show, my friend. Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, no, it's just good for me to ask questions because I learn. And I guess in balance, we should probably have a podcast about what you don't like about it. but because that's helpful too, right? I mean, to get the feedback. But yeah, it's mostly trying to let people know, other innkeepers know about, kind of the benefits. And if they already use the app, then I think it's always helpful to hear from other innkeepers. And that's part of why we want to talk to innkeepers a little bit more about the use of the app is, you might be able to pick up some ideas from others as well.
Mm-hmm. So, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Matt's not going to ask the question, but we usually just say, hey, is there anything else? Matt, you ask the anything else question.
Yeah, I get to play a little bit of a role in this one. So, Jan, before we sign off today, and of course, we really appreciate your time, is there anything else to add or anything we may have missed?
Well, one thing that remember I said, there's always a little bit more you could do. And this is learning for me is the reports that you can get about usage, which I don't check as often as I should, which would give us a good idea on how maybe we can improve getting the information to our guests. And that's my goal when we're done, that's my next to do that I want to do for Frictionless is learn a little bit more about how to get the meters on usage.
Right. So yeah. Metrics reports.
I'm glad you have that available too.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. I mean, getting the up and running is obviously important, but yes, I think there's definitely some insights that you can get from looking at the metrics reports. And some of those, it also gives you a feel for guest usage. Like, wow, right. It is being used. It is helpful. So yeah. Right. Great. Okay. All right. Matt, lead us out of here.
I'll take us out. So this concludes this Frictionless Innkeeper podcast interview with Jan Smith, who's the owner at the Maple Cove Bed and Breakfast in the August House based in Oakland County, Michigan. And as you heard, Jan was kind enough to discuss all key things that she's been doing to enhance the guest experience, particularly around the use of the Frictionless Guest app at her property. And our podcast is brought to you by the Frictionless Guest app, the digital concierge that helps your guests to live like locals. Learn how at frictionlessguest.com. Once again, that's frictionlessguest.com. And Jan and Steve, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. It was very enjoyable.
Thank you, Jan. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. See you at the conference.
All right. See you at the conference.